Next, we have with us Dr. Amit Shah from Vadodara, Gujarat, India. He's the inventor of Patwa Shah eye video laryngoscope. He's a promoter, director, and consultant anesthesiologist at the Vadodara Institute of Neurological Sciences, Vadodara. He's the chief consultant anesthesiologist at Kailash Cancer Hospital and Research Center, Munisheva Ashram, Goraj, and he's a partner in the Deep Anesthesia Associate Anesthesia Group. Presenting to you Dr. Amit Shah.
Good afternoon, dear friends and colleagues. It is really pleasure to be here. Uh, Thank you, Dr. Bala Venkat sir, for giving me this opportunity, and congratulations for hosting wonderful virtual international conference GARC 2020. I'll be speaking about perioperative oxygenation practical tips. Before that, I would like to disclose that I am one of inventor of high flow device named Hoofler 2, and I have a commercial interest in the device. Perioperative oxygenation has many topics to cover, but within next 90 to 20 minutes, I'll be covering pre-oxygenation, apneic oxygenation, and high flow nasal oxygen. Now, why do we keep a default alarm of all a monitor at 90 saturation? Because if you look at the oxygen dissociation curve, the initial part of our oxygen dissociation curve, where because of reserve, oxygen desaturation or the saturation fall is really slow. But when it reaches the critical hypoxia time, that is at 90 saturation and PO2 of 60, the fall is really critical because the reserve goes down. So reserve within the body, majority of the reserve is within lungs. Reserve is limited and located mainly in 4 compartments, but 95% of them remain in the lung. And in the lung, where the reserve is, when patient is not breathing, it is within the functional reserve capacity of the lung. So consider the if functional residual capacity as say 2100 ml, and if you are inspiring, if you are breathing air, that means the alveolar oxygen is only 13%, and rest is nitrogen, water, and carbon dioxide. And that much of oxygen, 13% of oxygen within the alveoli, which is roughly 273 ml if FRC is considered at 2.1 liter, which with 250 ml of oxygen consumed for per minute for an adult healthy patient, this is reserve lasts only for a minute. What we need to do, we need to extend this. We need to extend it. How can we do it? We cannot change carbon dioxide and water vapor. What we can change is nitrogen. If we can replace all nitrogen with the help of oxygenation, that is denitrogenation or pre-oxygenation, and make intra-alveolar oxygen concentration at 90% plus, then we can extend the apnea time. And this is aim of pre-oxygenation. How to achieve adequate pre-oxygenation? You need to deliver 100% oxygen to the lung and replace all nitrogen with the oxygen and make end-tidal oxygen more than 90%. So how much duration we should do pre-oxygenation? Which circuit we should be using? What should be the flow rate? And any factor alters this method, we should discuss that. Now, how long we should pre-oxygenate to achieve end-tidal oxygen more than 90% can be easily understood by the physics concept, which is called the time constant. Now, time constant in a simple language is whenever you add any material to already a full container, changes within that container is not linear, it is exponential and constant. Now, this step change is expressed at time constant. The physical equation is effective volume upon effective flow, volume in liter, flow within also liter per minute. That means if 1 liter of flow, 1 liter of flow of gas is added to 1 liter of container, then the change of composition of gas within that container is 63% of original one, not the entire volume will be replaced. Only 63% will be replaced. This is called time constant. And here, when we have equal volume and equal flow, the time constant is 1 minute. So with this time constant understanding, with equal circuit volume and equal flow, within 1 minute, 63% of the change will happen. So within first minute, 63% of the gas within the circuit, closed circuit will change if there is a equal volume and equal flow. Within 2 minutes, that is two time constant, 86.5%, that is 63% of remaining 37% will change. Within three time constant, that is 3 minutes, 95% of the change will happen. And to get 99.8% change, we require 6 time constant, that is 6 minutes in our consideration. So if you are using closed circuit, to prime closed circuit with 100% oxygen before starting pre-oxygenation, and if you assume that your circuit volume is 6 liter, you require 6 minutes with 6 liter fresh gas flow. You require 12 minutes with 3 liter fresh gas flow if you are using. You require only 3 minutes with 12 liter fresh gas flow. And the most rapid method to prime your circuit with 100% oxygen is to use oxygen flush for 1 minute. Now, what we are right now discussing is to achieve 100% oxygen within the circuit. But our goal is to achieve 100%, more than 90% oxygen in lung or the alveoli. So the time constant principle here, what are the denominators? What is effective volume? What is effective flow for the lung? Effective volume for the lung is functional residual capacity of the lung, and effective flow would be alveolar ventilation or patient's breathing. Suppose if we take an example of 2.5 liter of FRC, and if alveolar ventilation is 5 liter, that means time constant is 0.5, that is 0.5 minute. So time to reach 99.8% concentration, that is 6 time constant, would be 3 minutes here. So if you are breathing at 5 liter with your FRC at 2.5 liter, you need 3 minutes of pre-oxygenation to reach 90% plus oxygen concentration in your lung. That is how the concept of 100% oxygen for 3 to 5 minutes has come. Why 3 to 5 minutes? Is because patients, many individual will have different FRC and different ventilation. So methods of pre-oxygenation, there are various methods on this consideration of the concept which we already discussed can be done. It could be tidal breathing for 3 to 5 minutes. It could be vital capacity breath, 4 breath over 30 seconds, or 8 breath over 60 seconds. These three methods were compared by Anish Baraka, and what he identified was that 88 vital capacity breath over 60 seconds gives you best oxygenation, best chances of 90% oxygenation in your lung. But it also depends upon effective mast seal and circuit and oxygen flow rate. Now, mast seal cannot be effective in pediatric patients, edentulous patients, bearded patients, and it becomes very difficult. So how to ensure that the mask seal is effective? For effective mask seal, what you have to observe is once you apply the mask is bag movement. If bag movement is adequate, and if EtCO2 tracings are square wave, that suggests that your mask seal is effective and you can go ahead with any method. But in case if mask seal is not effective, what Dr. Pankaj Kundra and his team observed was that if face mask seal was not effective, tidal breathing was more efficient method than the vital capacity breath. Vital capacity breath system method was ineffective. Now, after considering the duration and the mask seal, what should be your fresh gas flow rate? If you are using open circuit, you don't need to prime that circuit. You can straight away start oxygen, but adequate oxygen flow rate or fresh gas flow rate to avoid rebreathing is 2 to 3 times of minute ventilation in case of open circuit. Where in case of closed circuit, it is more the flow should be more than minute ventilation and more than circuit ventilation. So in either case, if you use flow higher than 10 liter, should be sufficient, and it will avoid rebreathing and will establish your adequate pre-oxygenation. So all in all, how to ensure proper pre-oxygenation? You must prime your, if you're using closed circuit with 100% oxygen with the various method and time duration which you had discussed, 3 to 5 minutes of tidal breathing or 8 vital capacity breath over 60 seconds, either of technique can be used if you can ensure proper mass seal. To ensure proper mass seal, you must check bag movement and proper EtCO2 waveform. And if you have end-tidal oxygen monitoring available, then end-tidal oxygen monitor should be more than 90%. Now, with adequate pre-oxygenation and considering FRC at 22.1 liter, you get almost 1800 plus ml of oxygen available to bind with hemoglobin, which you extend apnea time by 6 to 7 minutes. So up to 6 to 7 minutes of apnea, no desaturation occur. But what if we are still not able to intubate, not able to ventilate, and or avoid this desaturation? This technique is called no deset technique, which is described by Dr. Richard Levitan. And what it is, no deset is nasal oxygen during effort securing a tube. Now here we are talking about patient is not breathing, patient is apneic, and we are trying to oxygenate. How to oxygenate while patient is apneic? It is the technique or the phenomena is called apneic oxygenation. And what is apneic oxygenation? It was actually not a new terminology. It is not a new concept or a phenomena it was described quite way back in 1949 and 1959 by Draper and Bartlett. In 1959, Jake Frumin actually coined term called apneic oxygenation. What he did, he intubated the patient and then he continued only oxygen flow but stopped the ventilation. And to his surprise, almost for 55 minutes, none of the patient actually desaturated. Only patient had high increase in PaCO2. And what he conferred was apneic oxygenation can indefinitely oxygenate a patient. How this is possible? Let us understand the mechanism. During normal breathing, exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide depends upon alveolar pressure, partial pressure difference. The oxygen goes in and the carbon dioxide comes out. But during apnea, what happens? Because carbon dioxide has large buffering capacity in the blood, only oxygen diffuses due to partial pressure difference. So 250 ml of oxygen goes in while only small amount of carbon dioxide comes out. Now, this disparity creates a vacuum in the alveoli, creates negative pressure in the alveoli. With further continuation of oxygen transfer, the negative pressure increases. It creates that much sufficient negative pressure so that if oxygen flow is available in the airway, it can be drawn in, it can be pulled inside, oxygen can be drawn in. And then again, this with the pulled oxygen, this oxygen transfer can be continued. And this concept is called the apneic oxygenation. What Dr. Frumin identified that there are three essential requirements of apneic oxygenation. One is denitrogenation, second is an open airway, and FiO2 of 100%. The Frumin study was for the intubated patient, and we are discussing here a technique which helps us during intubation when patient is not breathing. So tube is not placed yet. So even if you look at the literature, even small 5 liter of nasal oxygen can prolong the apnea. It is very clearly identified, but it does not give you enough time. It is not long enough. So what you need is higher flow. Now, how to deliver higher flow? Can we use nasal mask? Can we use oral? Can we use nasal oxygen? Should we use nasal oxygen or oral mask? How much flow we should use? What are the other considerations that we'll see next? So can we use mask for apneic oxygenation? Now, what are the problems with the mask? High concentration is not built up. There's dead space mixing. It creates mass of gas but does not provide flow in the airway. and you need to remove the mask while you are intubating. So there is interruption of flow and there is no flow during you are trying to intubate. So mask cannot be used for the apneic oxygen. What you need to use is a nasal oxygen. Now, how much flow when you use nasal route? Our current flow rate at the lower nasal oxygen which we give with 2 liter, it provides 24%, and with 10 liter it provides only 40 to 45%. But we need higher flow rate. So, how to achieve higher flow rate? To do that, we have to consider what is average peak flow rate of air when we inspire, which is roughly 30 liter per minute. That is average peak flow rate. And if we can provide oxygen flow rate higher than that, then the oxygen concentration can be increased. But the higher oxygen flow rate with the current system produces dryness and discomfort. So what we need to do is to deliver humidified gas at a body temperature. The gas needs to be heated and humidified. And that is how our current concept of heated, humidified, high flow nasal oxygen, that is HFNO, had come. What are the advantages of HFNO? HFNO has many advantages. Heated humidified gas improves secretion clearance, decreases airway inflammation and resistance, and decreases the energy expenditure, which is particularly helpful in respiratory failure patient. It matches the inspiratory demand, reduce work of breathing, maintain oxygen. So it really helpful. Provides high FiO2. It can generate PEEP, though PEEP generation has been questioned and it varies with flow and mouth open or closed. But various changes which are noticed associated with this particular technique, like increase in FRC, increase in and expiratory lung impedance, and decrease in preload by increase in intrathoracic pressure, is associated with generation of PEEP. So there is always some PEEP generation associated with high flow nasal oxygen, which improves oxygenation. It is also very well accepted and tolerated by the patient since it is a nasal oxygen. Since with high flow, there is no air entrapment and very higher FiO2 can be delivered. And also, normally dead space CO2 is rebreathed, but with high flow nasal oxygen, actually it flushes the oropharyngeal carbon dioxide. This prevents rise in CO2 to be lower side. So with apnea, rise in CO2 is lesser compared to lower flow oxygenation. So these are the advantages of very high flow nasal oxygen, which can be used at various places in anesthesia. And this was first time described by Dr. Anil Patel in his article, which is termed as THRIVE, Transnasal Humidified Rapid Insufflation Ventilatory Exchange. What is THRIVE? THRIVE is essentially use of high flow nasal oxygen in apneic oxygenation. 25 patients of difficult airway, actually who were undergoing various laryngeal surgery, were subjected to use of THRIVE. What they did pre-oxygenation with THRIVE, high flow nasal oxygen, and then during apnea, high flow nasal oxygen at 100% oxygen was continued. And to their surprise, none patient experienced saturation less than 90, and average apnea time was 17 minutes. 2 patients who were only on THRIVE, the apnea time was actually 32 and 65 minutes, and ETCO2 rise was less acute. So with the help of THRIVE, you can prolong the apnea time without desaturation if you are using nasal high flow humidified oxygen. But in the THRIVE technique, what it described was use of relaxant and higher concentration, 100% oxygen was used. What if you want to avoid both, such as laser surgery for laser airway surgeries? This was described in British Journal of Anesthesia in 2017 by Booth as Strive High. What is Strive High? Strive High is high flow nasal oxygen in spontaneously breathing anesthetized patients. He used propofol anesthesia for giving various airway surgeries. It provided good operative condition without any interruption. There was better margin of safety with apnea, and it can reduce oxygen percentage, and better oxygenation and CO2 clearance was identified and observed. So high flow nasal oxygen has a lot of uses in anesthesia. You can use it for the pre-oxygenation, can be used for apneic oxygenation during peri-intubation period. You can use it as a with the during awake oral or nasotracheal nasal fiber optic or videoscopic intubation with the sedation. It can provide respiratory support after extubation and also provide oxygenation, reduce work of breathing, and facilitate CO2 removal during various surgical procedures. So my dear friend, nasal oxygen is back. You pre-oxygenate your patient well with time constant concept using time constant effectively. Use no DSET for all your airway management technique. Heated, humidified, high flow nasal oxygen has many potential advantages, and Thrive and StryHive airway surgeries can be made more safer and comfortable. Thank you.